Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Christi Brooks, and I work in labor and delivery. But instead of helping moms give birth to new little wrinkly babies, I help authors give birth to their ideas through books. A study was done by the Jenkins Group, and they said that 81% of Americans have a book that they would love to write. But the reality is that less than 0.5% of people ever actually publish a book. Why is there such a discrepancy? Well, first of all, I think that a lot of people don't have the discipline that it takes to sit down and write more than a few Facebook posts at a time. So writing a book is out of their comfort zone. But I think there's also a lot of people who have the discipline to publish a book. They just don't know how to go about it. Because there's this big chasm with a raging river in between authors and readers. And when they start figuring out, okay, well, how do I publish this book that I have, this idea that I have, they come up with one of two options. The first option is traditional publishing with one of the big companies like Simon & Schuster, Tyndale, Random House. Those publishers are like a big industrial bridge across the river. They can get your book into the hands of thousands of readers. The problem is, unless your name is Stephen King or John Grisham, they don't necessarily want to work with you. They want to work with the people that have hundreds of thousands of Facebook followers, or Twitter followers, Facebook fans. They want somebody with a big following because it helps them sell more books. So that leaves a lot of people that can't cross on that traditional publishing bridge. The next option that a lot of people go for is indie publishing. I'll just build a boat and row myself right across that river to my readers. So they want to be involved in every aspect of choosing the fonts for their book, designing the cover. They want to assign their own ISBN. They want a hands-on approach to publishing, which is great for them. But that leaves out a lot of other people, because one of my clients, Ron, the first 3 emails he sent me, instead of typing his message in the message section of the email, he typed it all in the subject area. So obviously for authors like Ron, indie publishing is not going to be for him. He needs somebody to help him be a bridge to his readers. And so that's what I was able to do. I've also been a bridge for Julia. She wanted to introduce her business to her potential clients. So she wrote a book on her subject. And now, instead of handing potential clients a business card, she hands them a book that she's written on the topic. Instant credibility with those that might want to do business with her, and it sets her apart from her competition. I was also a bridge to help authors like Paul. About 2 months after his wife passed away, he found out that he had terminal cancer. And so he was desperate to leave a legacy for his children and for his grandchildren. And so he put his life story in a book. And now his children and grandchildren have something that they can read about his life. They can read about the love that he and his wife shared for the past 65 years. A third little entrepreneur that I worked with, her name was Brennan. She's 12 years old. And she wanted to go on a trip with her middle school group, but she didn't have the funds, and she didn't want to ask her parents to foot the entire bill, so she decided to write and publish a book of her own. So she wrote a children's book, and all the proceeds go to fund her trip. There has never been a better time to help authors like Brennan and Paul and Julia, because the barriers to entry are so low right now. With digital printing, for the same amount of money, you can buy 5 copies of your book, or you can buy 5,000 copies of your book. So gone are the days when authors have to lay out hundreds of thousands of dollars for inventory, and they have stacks of books in their garage that they're just hoping that they'll sell. You can buy what you need, and then when you need more, you can buy more. So for a few $100s, you can have a book published. I want to close by telling you about Kate. For the last 10 years, Kate has been researching how to live better longer, because when Kate's mom was 85 years old, her mom passed away. But her mom's friend, the very same day, was getting married. So Kate thought, well, why are some people at 85 sitting in a rocking chair and watching Jeopardy all day, whereas some people at 85 are going out dancing and are hiking and climbing mountains? What's the difference? How can I live better longer? She put her findings into a book, and I tell you what, no new mama has ever been more proud of their baby as Kate was of her book. She has talked about it to everybody she meets for the past few months since it came out. She has spoken at different conferences and retirement homes. She spreads her message now, and it's changing lives. And I am just so thankful that I got to be a part of giving birth to Kate's book. Now the question is, as I've been talking, you've probably been thinking of some ideas. Oh, somebody needs to write a book about this topic, or maybe I could write a book about this. So what is it that I can help you give birth to? Thank you.
So who has a question or something they'd like to ask Christi? We're going to try to pass these mics around so that it gets picked up.
You don't have to pass it. I'm talking pretty loud. Do you help with the writing? I'm not a great writer, but I've got great ideas.
We definitely have ghostwriters that we can hire to help you. I actually, for Julia's book, I did all the writing on Julia's book. She and I met week after week and got her ideas down on paper. So yes, we can find somebody to help write the book as well. Because a lot of people don't write their own book, surprisingly.
How much does the ghostwriters cost?
It depends on what type of book you're going to write. If you're writing, a few of your life stories and it's going to be a short book, that would just be a few $100s. And the way some ghostwriters work is through profits. You'll pay them a little bit up front, but then whatever you make, you'll give them a percentage.
What do you call a short book?
Well, the children's book was about 20 pages, but if you're talking, I think a lot of books are around 50,000 words right now, especially if you're talking self-help type of books. Now, if you're going to be writing a long fiction, science fiction book, you're going to be pushing 70,000 to 100,000 words for something like that.
Is that about 100 pages for a short book?
That would be short, yes. Mm-hmm.
What about a technical book? Would you have to hire someone to, I guess, in the same realm to be able to, because you wouldn't know about everything out there.
Right. Obviously, for a technical book, that wouldn't be something that I would write. But we would find somebody that could write it, and then I would work with them and work with you to get it laid out and get it, the cover designed and that type of stuff so that it looks, and I would help you negotiate with them.
Yes, ma'am. So Christi, do you work with folks that maybe already have book content but have had trouble getting it into the marketplace, or do you primarily help people get started with a book?
We have some people that have handed me a completed manuscript. Here you go. And that's great. That's exciting to go and take it and run with it. We have some that say, I'd really like to write a book on this topic, and it takes a whole lot more hand-holding to get them to where they need to be. But yeah, if they already have the content, then that's gravy.
Do you help people with like blogs or like smaller, somebody that's trying to reach a multitude of people with just short blog posts, for instance?
We really haven't done a whole lot of that because I tell you, right up, marketing is really not my strong suit. So in terms of getting readers to a blog or something like that, that's not my area of expertise. But with that said, a lot of people who write books, they need to start getting followers on a blog. And so I encourage my authors, okay, now that you're going to publish this book, let's start getting some posts out there to start drawing attention to your book.
What's the most successful book you've been a part of that you've helped publish?
Probably so far is Kate's book. And really, it's based on the author. It's based on their enthusiasm for their project. I tell you what, she is a go-getter. Every week she's calling me, I spoke at this place and I went and talked to this company. And so she's really getting out there. She has already, I think her book's been out for 2 months and she's already ordered 1,000 copies. And just so you know, most small books that are published sell about 100 copies. So that will kind of tell you how well she's doing in comparison. We're not talking about the New York Times bestseller list. That's if you hit 1,000, you're doing really well for this type of market.
Is there an industry standard, Christi, more or less, that you can offer to your customers for the chance of being published? Is there a way that you can say 6 out of 10 or whatever, especially with your successes?
Are you asking, like, do I turn people away because their books aren't?
Well, I was trying to be very politically correct. I'm asking you, what is your success rate for your clients? But I didn't want to.
Most of my clients have accomplished the goals that they have set out. Some of my clients, like Paul, for instance, he just wanted a book for his family and a few of his close friends. So he sold probably 200 or 300 copies of his, and he felt like that was a success. Others are hoping for something bigger, and what I can offer them, like let's say you want to be a professional author. You start with a company like mine. You get your name out there, you get the word about your books out there, you get people signed up on your email list. So when it's time for you to go to one of those traditional publishing houses, you can say, look, there are 5,000 people who already want to buy my next book.
So I was going to ask, and you may have covered this and I just slept through it, but do you offer the delivery of digital downloads and physically printed books? Is that right? And on the physically printed books, what do you find is the best channel for sales? I mean, you put it on Amazon, or how do you actually sell things?
We do digital as well as physical books. Either one. It's interesting. Most people want the actual physical copy, and that was something that I was kind of surprised about. I figured, in the digital age, people would want that, but it's not been as big a seller. And in terms of delivery, the best method of sales is direct author one-on-one sales. They're giving a presentation and they have their books at the back of the room and they sell them there. Or they put up a Facebook post and all their friends go to the link and buy the books that way. In terms of Amazon, now if any of y'all work for Amazon, I'm sorry about what I'm getting ready to say, but they are terrible for publishers and authors because Amazon takes a 40% cut right off the top of what the book cost. And so by the time you print the books and ship the books to the customer, you make a very little amount off of each Amazon sale.
So most of the sales are coming from authors hustling.
Yes.
Right? They're out there working. So, I mean, is there any distribution, or is it all kind of their website and them in person? Or are there, you get into bookstores or kind of?
Bookstores are tricky again. Bookstores don't like, for instance, Barnes & Noble. They have this much shelf space for each book, because they're set up like that. And so unless you're a big-time author, they very rarely will let you in. They do accept some books that are not published by traditional publishing companies, but they're not going to do any kind of marketing for you, and so you have to tell people to go and buy your book at Amazon kind of thing, which is very difficult. So yeah, most of the authors are the ones that are hustling and selling their books. And that's something probably, marketing is something that I would like to get into at some point, but that's not my area of expertise right now. So.
With Barnes & Noble being mentioned, do they have an online retail option? I would imagine shelf space in stores is really valuable, but having a warehouse full of the books that they could just distribute, take a small cut.
Barnes & Noble is a little more selective in what they allow on even in their web store than, let's say, Amazon. Anybody can put a book up on Amazon and they'll sell it. But Barnes & Noble, we have a few books that have gone that way that are available online with Barnes & Noble. But most of the authors, they see the cut and they're like, it's not worth it to me to bother with, putting it on there.
First of all, thanks for presenting. It's a lot, I guess, to get in front of everybody on day one. So I want to take the conversation a little differently. How did you get into this business? How long have you been in Lubbock? How do you find your customers?
Okay. I think we've been in Lubbock about 6 years now. My husband got a job. He works at Texas Tech, and so we came here. And I got into publishing because he actually wrote a book. And we went through the traditional publishing route with him, and everything was going along swimmingly until there was one more meeting that we had to get through, and they said it was just a rubber stamp meeting, not a big deal. Well, then he receives a phone call, and they said they decided not to publish your book because there was a chapter in there that was about race relations in Southern Illinois, and they didn't want to stir up trouble, and so they refused to publish it. Which means that we had spent almost 2 years working with this company, getting the book ready, and then we had to start over. But in the meantime, 2 of the gentlemen that he had interviewed for his book had passed away because they were all in their late 80s, early 90s, and so time was sensitive. And so we went with Chaplain Publishing and published the book, loved the process, loved putting the book together. We designed the cover. We did all the stuff that the publisher usually does. We did all that just because that's what my husband likes to do. And the owner of Chaplain Publishing at the time, he said, I'm wanting to retire. Would you be interested in buying the company? And 2 weeks prior to that, my husband had said, our youngest is going into kindergarten now. What are your plans? And I said, I have no idea. I don't want a full-time job. And so he said, well, what would you do if you could do anything? And I said, I would love to just read books and write study guides for books and edit books. And then 2 weeks later, it was kind of laid out for us. And so that's how I got started. And what was your third? How do I find clients? There were 2 customers that were from the previous owner that stayed with me. All the rest of them were one book and done kind of authors, which is fine. That's great too. But so I had those 2 clients, and then just kind of word of mouth is really, my clients will tell their friend, oh yeah, here's my book. Oh, I was interested in a book. Who published yours? And then they'll come and contact me. And so we really haven't done hardly any advertising at all, which is, a problem. But, it's worked so far, but it won't work for long-term growth.
Yeah, go ahead, over here.
First, thank you for sharing these inspiring ideas and stories. And I'd like to ask you about how do you see your business? What is your vision for your business? I clearly see the passion you have for what you are doing, but from a professional business point of view, do you have a business plan? Do you have a vision? Are you seeking investment? Where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now? Will you share some information about this?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I would like to see my bridge expand. I'd like to see my bridge grow. Right now I have 1 editor that works with me and 1 graphic designer. I would like to have enough clients so that I can add on more graphic designers, more editors, and some people to do marketing to help the authors. I like that to be a service that we can offer. in terms of a business plan, you know, I really have been just keeping up with the clients I have. And so in terms of sitting down, and it wasn't until I started watching these videos that I thought, wow, I need to put some more thought into the actual workings of my business instead of just doing my business. So.
Do you have something?
Yes, what's the name of your husband's book?
He has 2 books. He's got one called Sensory Overload, and that's about car shows. And he's got one called Season of Change, and that's about a minor league baseball team from the 1940s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Tim?
2 questions. One is, how do you get paid, or how do you price your services? And then the second question is, how do authors get paid? In other words, I assume up until they sign on with a large publisher, they actually own their work, and then when they sign on with one of the large publishers, the publisher then owns it, and they just get paid royalties. So, 2 questions.
Yes, correct. The way I get paid is I've got 3 packages, 3 publishing options. The first one is only $200. That's if you know how to lay out your book yourself and you just come to me to have it printed and have the cover design. Then they pay me $200 and then the client buys their book, or the client buys as many books as they want. The second option is if you want me to do the layout, you want me to do the cover design, you pay me from between $600 and $800 depending on how many pictures you want added, depending on if we need to type it for you or if you already have it typed, that kind of thing. And then the third option is if you want a website to go along with it. So if you want an author website and the book layout, that's $1,700. So they pay me up front for that, and then for every book they buy, there's a surcharge of about $1.50 to $2. So let's say, and that's how the author makes money. Let's say they buy the book from me for $5, they sell it for $15, they make $10 off of every book they sell. So that's an encouragement to them to, you know, sell as many as they can, because that's how they get paid through my company.
And then what about the royalty piece? How does that work?
The royalties, I tell you what, and I tell my authors this, it's listed on my website that I pay royalties, and I would love to pay royalties because that means I'm selling books. The way it works is an author can sell their book, but since I've published it, I can also sell their book on my website or in the back of stores, that kind of thing. I can do that kind of thing, and when I sell the book, instead of them getting the $10 that they would make, they get a royalty percentage. But again, I don't sell very many books. I think I've been so focused on getting the books to market that I haven't taken the extra leap of actually selling the books myself. And so I tell them, you know, and especially if I list them all on Amazon, but if they get sold on Amazon, I lose money a lot of the time. And so they don't get royalties, obviously, if I'm losing money.
Would you share a little bit more about your specific marketing issues? You mentioned marketing issues broadly.
Well, I think part of it is that people see that somebody has published a new book. Oh, that's nice. But they want to buy a book from Amazon so they can shop in their pajamas. Or they want to buy a book from Beth Moore because they know her name and they trust her books. And so breaking out of the mindset of I need to buy one of those types of books to you're selling a book about your life, that's interesting. I think I'll buy that. I think that's difficult. And I don't want to flood my personal Facebook page with, you know, all kinds of posts about the books that I'm offering, my business. And the way Facebook has changed their algorithms, even my fans don't see a lot of my posts from my business page. And so I think one of the marketing strategies is just letting people know about the books that I have to offer and about my services.
Did you have something?
Hi.
Last question.
Your passion for the industry is very clear. Now that you mentioned seeing the videos and challenging yourself a little bit, how do you see the business growing? Is this more passion or is this a scalable entity that you want to, you mentioned hiring new people, but what really is your vision?
You know, right now, I have my hand in every aspect of each book that's published. And while that's great and that's gratifying, that's not sustainable. And I understand that in order for me to help more authors, I'm going to have to take a step back and let some other people be involved in the process. And so I think long-term growth, you know, and I've not set any numbers that I want to hit for long-term growth, but I definitely see that this can be scalable because I know probably 15 graphic designers off the top of my head that could work on a project here and a project there. I know tons of editors. And so the opportunity is there, and I think the market is there. I just need to be willing to take my hands off of it and let it grow that way.
Very good. Well, last question actually is, what can this community of folks do for you?
I love this question. Besides telling your friends about that there's a company that exists like this here in Lubbock that can help them, we can sit down one-on-one and talk. But spreading the word is number one. You all can be my marketers while I'm figuring that piece out. But second of all, I think just seeing moms and pops that have a book for sale and buying that book. Because first of all, you're buying the information that's in it, which is great. You're buying the entertainment if it's a fiction book or something like that. But you're also telling them what you have poured your heart into has value. And I tell you, there's nothing more encouraging than to know that what you have given birth to has value. And so I think just encouraging those authors, you know, going to my website, seeing what all is available, buying books for yourself, buying books for your friends, buying books for your kids. So just helping local authors that way, I think, is what the community can do for me.
Very good. Thank you very much.